everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing some more test hands for vampires. Today we are going to be focusing on going second, so things will definitely be a lot different than us going first, because instead of trying to establish a board to defend ourselves, we are now trying to break a board. But before I get started, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like, share, comment and subscribe, and also hit that bell notification. But with that being said, let's just begin. Alright, so as you can see here, this is kind of ironic because with the hand we drew here, it does seem more like a turn 2 or turn 1 going hand. So with that being said, let's just begin with the solitaire and bring out our uni zombie like always. Of course, this time you need to be careful about what you do, because keep in mind uni zombie does have a bit of a restriction, preventing your zombie, well anything that's not a zombie, from actually attacking for the turn if you use its effect. So let's begin here by going with uni zombie's effect. Let's see, what do we have available here? We do have Jacobolan and we do have the Fraulein as an option available. So what can we discard? I'm thinking, well, perhaps we could actually discard Familiar. That could be a potential option. You could discard the Familiar, in this case use Familiar's effect, maybe discard the Vampire Kingdom. You don't really need this, and perhaps with that you can just bring it out and search your deck, add yourself a Shadow Vampire. That would be fantastic, of course. Now you did already go for a special summon, so maybe that's not the best choice. I don't know, perhaps we'll try out something else. We could actually try to go for maybe a Retainer, though I'm not entirely sure we might be able to go into, though I do see this. What you could do here is go for the Super Poly and actually try to get rid of your opponent's monsters. They're not going to be able to respond. You'll just discard the Retainer and you'll perhaps use your own monsters. You could use your opponent's monsters as well. In this case, it's hard to imagine what's going to happen, so I'll just assume that we use our own monsters. And with that being said, we get to bring out some kind of decent monster, perhaps a Starving Venom. That's still really great, of course, but of course that could easily be done on your opponent's monsters as well. If they have Dragoons on the board, you pretty much have a free target over there. But with that being said, we do have over here the Fraulein and Jacobolan, so I'm going to discard my Fraulein because this will allow me to also bring out a Retainer, and Retainer's effect will allow me to also search for a spell card now. So in this case, what do we want to bring back? We have these two cards over here. So let's think carefully about what we could potentially bring back or use in this particular case. I'm thinking perhaps a Desire. We could actually activate the Desire and ditch off a particular vampire to the grave to change the level of the Retainer, which is not too bad of an option because that obviously gives us a bit more control of the actual board itself on what we could potentially do. So you could get rid of the Voivode, which could potentially special summon itself back, or perhaps go for Sorcerer to prepare for the next turn, maybe another copy of Retainer or even Familiar, just so that you could set yourself up for the following turn. But with that being said, this is pretty much what you have here. You're still attacking with something pretty decent. Keep in mind, Starving Venom gains the attack of one special summon monster, so that is definitely fantastic. You also have Jacobolan, of course, and the Shurino style Swallow Slash, which acts as a disruptor in the following turn. Alright, so here's a bit of a different change here. We might be able to work with this. Let's see what we can do here. So I'm thinking we could easily just summon out the Jacobolan by discarding our Familiar, which is great, of course. Now with that being said, what could we potentially do here? Maybe we shouldn't actually do that. It might be a pretty foolish move of me to do that, because what we could do is just normal summon out the Familiar, and this would allow us to then ditch off this to actually go for our, where is it? Oh wait, I was meant to go into Link Karibo, so that was actually not particularly a great move on my part because obviously we don't really have anything to work with. I think we could still get this to work out. I mean, all we need to do is just ditch the Mizuki, and we have here Familiar, of course, as well, which is already just on the field. So we just take Familiar and the Jacobolan, and together we could link summon, allowing us to go for a Vampire Sucker. I'm just gonna create here a link marker. Alright, so there we go, we have this, which is not bad. We could ditch off the Voivode to the graveyard and allow ourselves to summon back out our Familiar. And of course, with that being said, Vampire Sucker activates. I'm gonna shuffle our deck. Did we search our deck? No, we didn't. So we just simply get to draw a card. We have Domination, not bad at all. But with that being said, since it is special summoned, we do get a search. So perhaps we should go for Retainer. I mean, that is a potential option, of course. Let's see here. I mean, that's actually not too bad of an option. Maybe instead of summoning out the Familiar in its own method of sending this to the grave, you could actually just banish off the Mizuki instead, summon it out, and then you could add your Retainer. You'll get what I mean later on, but we're just going to go with this for the time being. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the Retainer, the Familiar, sorry, as well as the Sucker in this case, and now we're going to Link Climb and pretty much go into a bigger monster. So we have our Unicorn over here. You can discard any card you want and pretty much just spin one of the opponent's cards. Fantastic, of course, but now you can use the effect of Familiar, bring it back and ditch off Retainer to the graveyard. That's no big deal, you just keep it there, and then you could also just use Retainer's effect. You could ditch off the Voivode and summon out the Retainer. And of course, with that being said, Retainer will then allow you to add and go for your Domination. By going for Domination, we could finally activate it, pay 500, and allow ourselves to go for a second normal summon. Simply tribute off whichever one you actually need to, in this case Retainer, and we simply bring out our Scarlet Scourge. We might be able to keep the Retainer just because it does have 1200 attack, so we get rid of the weaker one, but even so, Scarlet Scourge allows us to then special summon out the Voivode from the graveyard. So this is what we have over here. Very nice, you're dealing quite a bit of damage, and of course this allows you to potentially also steal one of your opponent's monsters. So 22, 22 making 44, 44 plus the well, this here is already 4k, so that's 8.4k onto your opponent. And of course, since it's a Strider monster by battle, pretty much summon it out, attack with that as well. Really nice there, definitely just adds a lot to it. And if you're not able to OTK, you still have the Swallow Slash. You could always tribute off your Retainer, and you pretty much have here a Solemn Judgment. Very powerful, not only for attack, but also for the following turn. Alright, so here's it's kind of ironic to open up with a Shadow Vampire. We're only playing one copy, yet we managed to open it up in the second turn, so a little bit unfortunate there, but you know what, we still got a certain play with it, I guess, to utilize it for something else. So in this case, let's summon out our Jacobolan. This will allow us to then get rid of Mizuki, which is fantastic, of course, because if you look at what we actually have over here, we now have Vampire Desire. We can activate that, of course, allowing us to ditch off one card to the graveyard. I'll ditch off the Familiar. And with that being said, this is now a level 1. But even so, we could bring back Familiar by ditching off one more card. We'll just ditch off the Shadow Vampire, because there's no need for it. But with that being said, let's see what else we could potentially do. Familiar allows us to add, and we can get ourselves our Scarlet Scourge. A fantastic card to actually get to the hand, of course. You could also potentially get rid of a few other cards instead. For example, in this case, with Familiar, you could actually extend this a lot further. by adding on your retainer instead. And since we haven't done a normal summon, we'll just normal summon out the retainer. We take familiar and retainer and we link them both away. The familiar should be gone, but we still have retainer of course, and this will allow us to bring out our vampire sucker, and of course from that retainer's effect activates, allowing us to ditch off the kingdom and special summon itself back out. In this case you could search for whatever you want to. I mean, you have the choice to perhaps bring back maybe Swallow Slash, that would be great, but you could also just go for your domination as well. So it does give you quite a few different options there, but of course that's just one particular scenario, so let me backtrack a bit again and show you guys a different scenario where instead of going for the retainer, we just kept everything on board. So we have all of that there. The retainer never came out, and I think this is how it is, but instead we add this Scarlet Scourge instead. So that would be the change in that particular case here. So with that being said, you wouldn't have gone into the sucker yet, but we do have the option of going for familiar and the Jacobolan and linking them two away. Of course that goes, allowing us to then properly bring out our sucker. And of course with that being said, Mizuki's effect can also just bring back the Jacobolan. Bring it in attack mode, it doesn't really matter, because what you're going to do is you're going to draw a card, so I'm going to properly shuffle this. And then of course we draw a card. We have here Vampire Voivode. That's actually pretty nice, that's pretty decent indeed, but in that particular case it's not like we could do anything with this. So what we could potentially do as an alternative is perhaps just tribute this off, summon out our Scarlet Scourge. The thing is this, we don't need the extra normal summon because this is the normal summon of our turn. So we summon out Scarlet Scourge and we bring out our Shadow Vampire. The only downside is the Shadow Vampire is unfortunately unable to actually attack, so we simply can just take these two and link climb, allowing us to obviously go into our unicorn. In this case we simply discard the Voivode, and of course we have these two, not enough to actually OTK the opponent obviously, but Scarlet Scourge, keep in mind, can potentially take one of your opponent's monsters. We have a domain to follow up on, and we also have a Vampire Kingdom boosting up Scarlet Scourge as well by 500 attack during damage calculation, which is pretty much an added bonus. But with that being said, these were pretty much the Testhands. Do let me know what your thoughts are on these Testhands. Do you want to see a few more Testhands on this? I could definitely show a few more Testhands because I do think that this deck definitely has a lot to offer, but you know, regardless, just let me know. However, thanks for joining me today. I hope you all have a splendid day. I'll see you all next time.